This is Proxy Countdown. Welcome to the big show for the week of April 6th, 2026. Alongside my tag team partner, Matt Mascardi, I'm Damian Rollis. On today's countdown, a problem child gets paid to fail at Paramount Skydance. Oracle's new CFO is already the decision maker on her own pay. AI prefers shareholder activists. Hewlett-Packard shareholders are yelling at ghosts. And on the big vote, Matt opens an Adobe document and, drains his system resources because that's kind of what Adobe does.
They're all gone.
Yeah, let's get to our top stories. We're now doing the show weekly, so I only looked at about 44 filings since last week, but the headline, Jeff Shell, president and board director at Paramount Skydance, is stepping down after allegations of SEC violations came under scrutiny after gambler and whistleblower R.G. Cipriani filed a $150 million lawsuit alleging that Shell shared confidential information in violation of SEC rules. Now, Shell previously left his role as NBCUniversal CEO in 2023 after he admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with an employee. So this is who Jeff Shell is.
This is the double, yeah. He's hitting a double.
The company said it did not find an SEC violation and that the claims are baseless and that Shell is taking forceful legal action, but they still let him go. So there you go. His future at Paramount was already in question because after Netflix failed in its bid to acquire Warner Brothers, the acquisition of Warner Brothers puts executives like Shell on kind of an unsure ground because it doesn't really have a defined role at the combined company. So I don't, it's hard to know what's really going on here. Of course, the filing said nothing, but what it did say is that he is getting approximately $16 million to leave. Of course, they don't do that math for you. They kind of just, they say it in words. They don't actually give the figures. You have to go into the proxy and understand what it means, what his cash severance means, what his equity acceleration means. But what it all adds up to is $16 million. I like this nugget I found in the agreement too, that the executive, that's Jeff Shell, shall not issue a press statement announcing anything about the separation without the advance approval of the company. I like that little.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. I would say though, it sounds like a lot, but he's going to have a lot more in legal fees. So we should take pity on him.
Yeah. BP has a new CEO as of April 1st. Her name is Meg O'Neill. She is BP's fourth CEO since 2020. Usually you call on a woman to clean up the mess like a lot earlier than 4 CEOs in 6 years, right? Like BP's late to that party. She is the first external hire at BP in more than 100 years and also the first woman to lead a big oil company. So there you go. Meg O'Neill. Good luck with that.
They should have called in the woman for the third try, not the
third
fourth.
One. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, 2 open AI executives are going on medical leave. This is kind of odd. It's always women leaving OpenAI. The company's chief marketing officer, Kate Rausch, is stepping down to recover from cancer. And Fiji Simo, Fiji? Mm-hmm. She's OpenAI's CEO of Artificial and General Intelligence Development. She's taking a medical leave. Here's the quote. This quote floored me. This is everything wrong about the tech culture. And I think I complain on every single one of our shows that this whole industry needs to slow down. For the sake of humanity, slow down, get some guardrails, get some regulation. Listen to her quote. For my entire time here, I've postponed medical tests and new therapies to stay completely focused on the job and not miss a single day of work. What?
Not a great idea.
it really floors me. I mean, I'm astounded by this kind of. You're not a hero, Fiji. Nobody should postpone medical tests and therapies for anything, honestly.
Well, I do want to congratulate you because you picked 3 years ago at this point, maybe 4 years ago on a prediction show, you chose Fiji Simo as Mark Zuckerberg's replacement at Facebook, then Facebook. And your theory was Zuckerberg's under a lot of pressure. He's going to step down. He'll be executive chair, and he'll bring in somebody who he can control. Fiji Simo is the perfect candidate. And here Fiji Simo is OpenAI's CEO of Artificial General Intelligence Development, which is basically the same thing.
Yes, number 2.
It's the same thing.
Well, it's funny you mentioned pressure because I don't want to get too deep onto the diagnosis of her medical condition. She doesn't have cancer like the chief marketing officer. What she really has is a condition of chronic pain, really. It's one of these kind of undefined sicknesses that many people think comes really from stress.
You hate your life.
Yeah. And these people, like, they chase all these different kind of, treatments and cures or whatever. But it doesn't surprise me that, you're working for Zuck, you're working for Sam Altman, who was called a sociopath in an article in New Yorker this week, and you refuse to even, like, go to the doctor's office. I mean, this is just the culture.
Yeah, not great.
This says it all about that culture. This is why it needs independent directors to tell everyone to knock it off. All right, moving on. In our down to 2F, I cover this. Now this is like a normal thing. I cover this every week. Board's going down to 2 women. Global Net Lease. Her name is P. Sue Perotti. She's resigning. They also have an M. Therese Antone. I was actually complaining on a recent show that what's with these men with all the initials, the first initials? But here's 2 women. I've never seen. Have you ever seen a woman with a first initial? Never seen that.
I have not actually.
Yeah, I know that's meaningless to everybody but me. At Trade Desk, 4 directors have stepped down since March 19th. So a bit shocking there, including 2 women. They're down to 2 women on the board. And then finally, same at AppLovin, Alyssa Harvey Dawson resigning. Okay, now let's get to all the stupid money at Bungie Global. Special one-time equity awards to all NEOs, including $8 million for the CEO, Gregory Heckman. 2 $3 million golden parachutes at Whirlpool, 2 different executives leaving. At Broadcom, new CFO Amy Dooner gets $35 million in equity and $1 million in cash just for joining.
Holy moly.
And then two good ones that I love here. Oracle, new CFO Hillary Maxson. Her golden hello includes $250,000 in relocation costs and $26 million in equity. 80% of it is time-based. But here's the part that I've never seen before. It says this explicitly. She will be able to select the equity vehicle for her grant as either 100% stock options or 50% stock options and 50% restricted stock units. She gets to choose. What's the point of having a pay plan? What's the point of having a compensation committee? Like what? I've never seen that. She gets to pick.
What would you pick?
I don't know. It all sounds like money to me. I mean, she hasn't even proven herself. I would take.
Take the
whatever.
Stock
Take it all. I don't know.
Trust me. Take the
what do
stock
I care?
Options.
I'd be happy with $250,000 in relocation costs. I'd be the worst negotiator. They would have offered that first. I'd be like, okay,
you'd quit.
Done.
You'd just say,
I'll take it.
I'll take the job. Yeah.
And finally, this is one of my new favorites is these bonuses for people doing their jobs. A special $2 million equity award to Chief Enterprise Services Officer and Chief of Staff to the CEO Frank LaPrade at Capital One Financial in recognition of his contributions to completing the transaction and his anticipated work relating to the integration of the Brex business with the company. So he's just doing his job and, congratulations,
the eventual
Frank.
work we think you might do. Yeah,
You could suck at it, but
But look, we talked about this last week. That's a sports contract? We just gave you a $2 million signing bonus, even though you're in the middle of the season. We're just going to give you a $2 million signing bonus. Also, question: what is the chief of staff to the CEO of Capital One Financial?
I've never heard of that either.
I've never heard of that. Like, I mean, what does that person do? They do the calendar, they set up events, and they close transactions. So I don't understand anything that's happening.
And then finally, a couple oddities that I always like to look at. At Natera, they appointed Class 1 Director Eric Rubin, who not up for a vote until 2028. That always makes sense to me. And how about this at HubSpot? Ron Gill is stepping down in June and being replaced by Mike Berry, but Mike Berry is not taking over in June. He's already on the board. So his replacement gets to join the board before the meeting, no vote, but the other guy gets to step down at the meeting. They circumvent democracy every way they can.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I know, like we're probably one of the few research companies that takes full umbrage with this, but this is the perfect symbol of an organized system that doesn't care about its shareholders, right? I mean, look, why can't he just be up for a vote initially at the annual meeting? Why is he already on the board? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So, is he not going to? He's not going to be up for a vote.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that HubSpot actually has its proxy out. You're right, because
they don't have a proxy out.
We've seen that recently. We've seen. I don't remember at what company. But we just reported on this. A director who was put on the board before the
AGM
didn't make the vote.
And didn't make the cut to actually have a vote. I think it was like 2 weeks before the AGM happened. And they must have, run out of printer paper because they could not figure out a way to put the person who they appointed before the AGM to go to a vote at the AGM. That's something to watch. I think that's going to be the new thing. We talked about, directors, within 30 days of the end of the AGM getting added, basically as incumbents for a full year. Yeah. Now we're at negative. We're actually negative days. It's nuts.
Plus, how are you replacing the guy if he's still there? Are you sitting on his lap? I mean, what? I don't understand what that is. All right, let's move on. Proxy cage matches. Proxy advisor ISS is recommending a vote against the BP board for revoking 2 resolutions from 2015 and 2019 that required company-specific climate reporting. They both passed with near 100% support, and now they're like, This is BP. This is Meg O'Neill's new BP, so...
She'll apologize for it, even though she had nothing to do with it.
Activist shareholder follow this. Remember, they were sued by Exxon last year. They're agreeing with ISS, and they're warning of possible legal action after BP refused to put one of their proposals on the agenda at the upcoming meeting in April. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I applaud follow this if they do sue, because I think they should be suing back.
Look, think about Meg O'Neill's first 3 weeks in office. It can't have possibly been Meg O'Neill's decision to both follow this's shareholder resolution this year and to revoke the 2015 and 2019 climate reporting resolutions. The likelihood that had anything to do with her is near zero.
Yeah.
But that's what Murray Auchincloss and the BP board leaves her with. Her first act is basically to show up at shareholder meetings and get yelled at.
Yeah, and Murray's out too. They have a new chair. And it's a good point, because this might be the first time. I mean, ISS is recommending a vote against the entire board. That's the reporting.
Which also
she's
walking
into that.
Right? She's a director now. Now she gets a vote against. She's been there for 80 seconds. This is exactly what happens. This is why you put a woman in charge.
Every time.
Because you know you're going to get a ton of flack. You just throw them in the fire, and then when they're voted out or voted against, sorry about that.
Here's a activist investor that needs to hire free flow analytics. Shaw Capital is renewing its fight to. Well, I mean, they all do. They all need to be using free float data. I can't believe they don't, and they need the valuable insight that comes with the data. Shaw Capital is renewing its fight to revamp the leadership of Novavax, saying the current board has overseen a destruction of shareholder value. They always say that. Okay, so Shaw Capital owns 9% of the stock, will vote against the re-election of the entire board, and vote no on pay. But they said they will not be starting a proxy fight because it will be in the minority, quote, against an entrenched 8-member board. I don't know what they're talking about. What is their definition of entrenched? There are 9 members on the board, including the CEO, John Jacobs, who joined in 2023. 7 of these directors joined since 2020. They're not entrenched at all. So I mean, you're wrong. That's all I'm saying. And there's only 2 women to push around. I know activists love getting rid of women and putting in men. So
that's a new thing, yeah.
You could fight this board, Shaw Capital. This is an easy one. They're all new. They don't know what they're doing.
There's data that suggests you can, yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, new analysis finds that AI tilts towards shareholder activists and proxy voting. This is a weird one. AI is currently more likely to support an activist case for change than an incumbent board and management team. On average, the models recommended only 37% of votes for companies' entire director slates, substantially lower support than ISS and Glass Lewis. That's a little weird, right? Do you find that weird?
I don't. I mean, look, if AI is really just a reflection of the inputs, right? ISS and Glass Lewis are not an input to AI. That is a closed place for it to get input.
So it can't access the reports too, right?
It can't access the reports. That wouldn't be, they wouldn't be available to it. So if it's trained on basically effectively media and the vote
Reddit
results themselves.
Yeah, Reddit and our show.
What you're literally going to see is certain ESG shareholder proposals, certain proponents, certain activists, they actually have more support. So the AI is just going to.
But they're all turning to AI, right? JP Morgan's going to AI. I think Goldman Sachs, and then there's competitors to ISS and Glass Lewis who are starting companies based on AI, right? So
I mean, look, objectively, if the AI actually probably is scraping free float data. There is free data on freefloatanalytics.com, which it can easily scrape.
They should.
So if AI used the principles of the shareholder democracy and capitalism, which say you should outperform and we should measure performance and you should get voted in and out based on performance, then it would naturally tilt against director slates and naturally have lower support than ISS and Glass Lewis, which reflect their clients who have social biases. So maybe I've been down on AI doing stuff, but maybe it's time to revisit that when it comes to this.
Let's move over to our vote results table. I'm now only looking. I'm going to say that proxy season's basically on its beginning. I don't even know, but
it's the end of preseason.
It's April.
Yeah.
I'm only now looking at the leagues 3 and 4 according to Free Flow Analytics data, which is basically like 500 biggest companies in the U.S. There's only 4 meetings last week, so there's not a lot to report. But I will say this: only one shareholder proposal. We're seeing a lot of that I don't even know what you call them. I've been calling them anti-woke, anti-ESG, but really I should just call them like the hate proponents. This is Boyer Research at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, a report on discrimination in charitable support. Again, less than 1%. Yes. I mean, why are these making it on the ballot? I don't get it.
Those are political decisions by the boards themselves.
But now they can exclude anything. Why are we're seeing Heritage Foundation, we're seeing Boyer, National Legal Policy. It's like, come on. They're all failures. They're all Nell Minow pointed out very rightly in a post a couple of weeks ago that spend some time and take a look at these resolutions. They're gross. They're hateful. They're nasty. I mean, why are these making the cut?
They're not reading the resolutions at this point, though. Like putting them on the proxy themselves, like actually not excluding them, is a political act. Actually, more than anything, it exposes the hypocrisy of exclusion, right? Because if you're going to argue that having overtly political shareholder proposals was the reason why we want to exclude them all, and then what companies actually do is choose the most overtly political proposals that are just conservative because that's the dominant party in the United States right now, it suggests that these are the cost and the time it takes to do political proposals is not a problem. You don't have a problem with it. You're allowing them on. You're just allowing the ones that you think the majority party in Congress and the SEC want to see. That's all you're doing. So the whole thing's a shell game. It's all a con.
And then finally, no directors with over 10% no votes. Average support 96% for companies. And then this one at Hewlett Packard again. They voted 26% no on pay. Significantly high figure there. Very high.
Yeah, that's high.
And yet, average board support 98%. The CEO, in fact, got 99.3% yes. The pay committee, which is all women, by the way, odd, 97% support. So it's like, who are you chasing?
Who are you mad at?
Is there
not the CEO, not the pay committee that set the pay that you don't like? Yeah.
People need to be listening to us. All right, next week, we got some big companies coming, including HP, the Boeing, and then Adobe. Adobe's the biggest one, and we are now in the season where, Matt, you're gonna every week now, right? You're gonna cover a company,
do a dive,
give us your vote suggestions, and this week we're doing Adobe. As I do every time, I want to just give you my observations before I hand off. First of all, according to Free Float directors, we have 2 directors who are just wildly underperforming. That's Dheeraj Pandey. He's hitting 463. The board's hitting 629. His earnings is woeful. The board's hitting 765. He's hitting 068. And the same with TSR. He's by far the lowest. And then there's David Ricks. He's way underperforming in carbon and controversies. So anyway, that's what the data found. Now I want to look at the skills. Top skill at Adobe of all places, economics and accounting. And then it's computer and electronics, communications and media, and then medicine and dentistry. The skill set here is bizarre. In fact, here's what I wanted to say. The board itself had their skill matrix. In fact, there is actually a proposal up, a board matrix proposal from, I think it's the New York City Controller's office.
NICERS, New York City.
They have a technologist, directors with expertise in software products, services, etc. That's Adobe. You're describing Adobe, right? And we're in this
sort of.
And we're at this point where, in fact, the CEO is stepping down because AI is about ready to destroy the software industry. And the CEO admitted basically, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm old. I got to get out of here. This is the lowest representation on this board, according to Adobe. Is this only 3 out of 11 directors have this experience? I can't believe they're admitting this. And then on top of that, they have something called AI experience, and they're claiming that 8 out of 11 directors have experience leading AI transformation in companies, which is pure nonsense. They included their own CEO stepping down, Shantanu Narayan, who all reports from like CNBC, Bloomberg are suggesting this is the reason he's stepping down.
Yeah, stepping down because he doesn't want to do AI.
And yet they're saying he led AI transformation. Where? It wasn't Adobe. They're also saying that Oberg, she's the CFO at Marriott, David Ricks, CEO of a pharmaceutical company, a guy Rosenzweig, who is the CEO of an online textbook company, et cetera, et cetera. They all have led AI transformation at their company. It's pure bullshit.
It's nonsense.
Nonsense. And then finally, I want to leave you with this. There is a massive succession going on at this company because, as we pointed out, the CEO is stepping down. And here's the thing, though. They don't know Adobe, $215 billion market cap. They don't know who's replacing him.
We'll come back to this.
Yeah, I mean, come on. All right. I'm going to officially hand it off. Go ahead.
All right. Here's what we got. I'm going to do this in 2 segments. I'm going to do the first segment.
I thought you were going to say 2 seconds. I was like,
no, 2 segments. I got the first segment I'm calling On the Clock. And I literally set a timer for myself. 30 minutes.
Oh, God.
to look through all free float data and come up with what I would want on this board, what I see is going on, like just looking through the data that exists, right? Like, so this is I'm an analyst. I've got 30 minutes. I want to set myself up to make some game time decisions, make a voting decision. So on the clock is what I got out of 30 minutes of review.
I love this.
And then I'm going to give you the game time decisions, what's happening now and how I would vote. All right. On the clock. Free float stat sheet. The demographics of this board. The average birth year was Lyndon Johnson's presidency, 1967.
It's a weird average way to start. Okay.
Free float has a metric called demographic similarity between board members. It takes every pair of directors on any given board and looks at race, age, gender, and like demographic similarities between them, just what they look like and how old they are and their genitals effectively, and says how similar are they. This board is 74% similarity between board members. The average is roughly 80%, so they're actually a little less similar than some other boards, but it's shocking how demographically similar most boards are. The average tenure on this board is higher than most. It's 10 years on this board. 5 directors on this board greater than 10 years, including Rosenzweig and CEO Narayan, who's at 18 and 17 years.
And it's important to point out that he's actually not going to leave the board. So it's not like that tenure is being set free. Like he's trying to figure out who to replace him, even though that was the function of the board and him actually. It's one of his jobs. And he's staying.
And Shantanu's got 28% of the influence on the board right now, combined with Rosenzweig, who you mentioned, and Frank Calderoni, the accountant, global talent guy.
Calderoni's the lead director.
He's the lead independent director. They actually have 49% of the total influence on the board, roughly.
And they're not going
anywhere. And those
anywhere.
are the two on deck. They're not going anywhere. There's a negative 9% gender power gap. Women have 9% less influence than they have representation. There's 36% of the board is women. On the board itself, 82%. Again, this is what I found inside of 30 minutes. 82% of the board has advanced degrees or went to elite schools. These are brainiacs. Sense. They're smart people. But only 8% of the directors actually got tagged as having merit. Most of these directors failed on pure performance. On all the boards they've been on, they're interconnected. They have some leadership skills, but they don't have economic stakes in Adobe. They fail on performance, and very few of them actually have core knowledge of the industry Adobe is in. In fact,
remember I told you like Marriott, a pharmaceutical textbook rental company?
This is what I'm talking about. Like there's not core knowledge of this industry, so they're failing to even get a basic flag for merit. And merit looks at really, really basic things. You know, are you an above average performer? Have you had a leadership position in the past? You have an economic stake in the company. Are you connected to all the other directors? And how do you perform? How do you? There's one other one. I always forget the last one. Core knowledge, right? So those are the 5, right? Any 3 of those, and you get flagged for merit. That's sort of basic. That's table stakes to be on a board. They fail. Only 1 director on this board actually got tagged for merit at all. And what they did get tagged for is 82% of the board is connected. They're connected to each other.
Well, that answers why.
That ranks in the top 10 of all IT sector companies in the US, Canada, Australia, and Great Britain combined.
Yeah, that explains it. I mean, that explains they don't have the expertise. They're not there for their expertise. They're there because they're connected.
And who they're connected to might actually matter. This board ranks as 2 of the free float data points are actually now the directionality of CEO pay and the size of CEO pay relative to all other boards and directors in their industry at their size. Does this board overpay, and is the overpay or underpay, and is it typical, like you'd expect this, or atypical? You wouldn't expect this.
Right.
They are ranked as an atypical overpayer of the CEO. That means they are overpaying the CEO, and they're doing it at times that make no sense. It's abnormal to relative performance. That
makes sense. Yeah, because a big number last year, 21% of shareholders said no to pay. That's a big number.
It's a serious problem, and the big reason why is because Narayan gets paid for earnings and revenue performance rather than getting paid for TSR at this point.
Well,
TSR is a component of his pay, but it's the biggest chunk of why he's getting paid what he's getting paid is earnings, which keep going up, and revenue, which keep going up.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's the first thing you notice when you look at the overall performance of the board on free flow analytics, is that their earnings, they're hitting 765. TSR, they're hitting only 418. That's a massive discrepancy. Okay,
let's get right to gaps. Gap number one, they don't get paid for their earnings. Like, as in, the market is not valuing their earnings. They are, the TSR performance of the directors and of the company writ large well underperforms. They're in the top 15% of all companies for earnings in their industry and size.
Yeah.
And yet,
well, they have a bit of a monopoly, I feel like. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Figma is competition there and AI is competition there, but they're still out earning. And part of the reason why that is, in my theoretically, I'm theorizing here, is they deal with creatives, right? Like, their software fundamentally is about people being creative, is a big portion of their software, and then Acrobat, which is another stupid part of their software, which is like you can be replaced, but is sort of market dominant. The fact is, creatives are sticky. When you buy something that you use all the time to create, you're not out there looking for new software to create and learn new software. You actually, it takes time to learn this software.
But this is another area where AI is encroaching rapidly, no?
Yeah, yes and no. Like, a creative person can use AI, but ultimately what creative people want is some level of control. You can't outsource everything to AI. In the end...
Oh, you said famously. Yeah, I'm going to write that down.
But there's a big marketing gap here, right? Like, the market might be improperly valuing Adobe. They're worried about AI potentially, but this has been a multi-year process of losing shareholder value, right? The market isn't punishing them for, like, they're punishing them for, despite the earnings, right? Like, there's some narrative gap here. Like, Adobe's doing a very bad job of selling itself as still a solution in an AI marketplace. And who do you have to explain to blame for that? There are 5 directors on this board that are tagged as having marketing and communications knowledge in their backgrounds, including Rosenzweig, who's been there for 17 years, and Narayan, Ricks, Bolden, and Desmond. Like, these are people that are actually tagged at being supposed to have this as knowledge, core knowledge. And yet they don't seem to be able to communicate anything.
Well, they're also a bit like, they're dinosaurs a bit. I mean,
well, that's correct.
As you mentioned with the LBJ.
OG internet people for the most part, right? Like,
look, this is why when we're talking about succession, this is a great example of a CEO who should leave the board.
Oh, for sure. Yes,
well,
because
and I don't mean that like with any disrespect, but I mean, he's been there since 2007. The legacy company that he built is, something to be proud of. But as it goes into the new era, he doesn't need to be around. He needs to free that 28% influence, and also probably at least a couple of other of the names that you mentioned. You really need to free that up. Yeah, it's time.
But let's get to gap 2, and you mentioned this, which is the knowledge of the core products, what Adobe does, and the creativity products and the creativity software and all of that stuff is entirely consolidated with the CEO. I know they list 3 people as having technologist as a skill, but when we look at the actual knowledge of these people, design skill is only one director, and that's the CEO, right? Which is the Bob Iger corollary.
Trouble.
Prior to Nelson Peltz taking an activist stake in Disney, only Bob Iger had him tagged as having media experience. Meaning, when they put out a movie and he goes to the board and he's doing some presentation about like all the cool stuff they're doing on the media side, no one in that room had ever done it before. Not it wasn't their core knowledge. They'd sold shoes and they did, sold macaroni and they basically, were good at marketing or whatever. But none of them had actually any idea what it took to be a broadcaster for ABC or to develop a movie from, start to finish. Only Iger had that skill. Narayan here is exactly the same. He's the only one who actually knows how to use these products. Like, do you think the guy who does online, textbook rentals? It's online textbook rentals. It's not even like an online purchasing. Do you think that guy knows how to use Adobe Illustrator to, draw a picture? Do you think they know how to do design stuff? There's no designers.
And you've hit the problem on the head, which is that, again, we're not making this up. This is the reason why he's stepping aside, because software in general is in trouble. And if this is his core knowledge, and he's the only one, I mean, they just don't really need him much anymore. I mean, maybe they need him to say where they keep the Post-it notes. Like, he could tell them which closet it's in, which supply closet. But
either he sees something coming that they don't, that this is going to all get decimated because he's the only one who actually knows, or he is been around for 18 years. It's time for him to go because this isn't the new wave and they need somebody new. But here are the people who are choosing the somebody new. It's a guy who worked at SanDisk, flash disk storage. Do you remember?
Yeah, that's old.
It's a woman who was responsible for the e-commerce portfolio at Tyson Foods.
Ooh.
They sell chicken, right?
Yeah.
What
not
is
even
that?
Good chicken.
What are we talking about?
Chicken. Yeah.
What's the e-commerce portfolio? What is that? You just sell it at Stop and Shop, right? You sell it somebody else. How about the CEO of you mentioned pharmaceuticals? It's Eli Lilly, right? He has a background in marketing, and the online textbook rental guy Rosenzweig actually worked at Yahoo and CNET.
CNET? That's still a thing?
What
Yahoo?
century is this for the internet? You have an opportunity here. All right, that's what I got to at the end of my 30 minutes. That's my 30 minutes.
To your point, I'll give shareholders a little bit of credit here. Both Frank Calderoni and CEO Narayan, they both had 11% no votes the last meeting. And I know it's not a huge figure, but it is actually significant in this world.
It's significant, but it's because one's the CEO of a poor TSR company, and the other one's the lead independent director of the poor TSR company.
Right.
But they didn't actually look through and say Rosenzweig does textbook rentals online. Maybe that guy shouldn't be here too.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is an either or. Either you get rid of the 3 or 4 long tenured directors, or you get rid of the CEO from the board. Just make a decision. But you got to free up some space here.
I will say at the end of my 30 minutes, I noticed that on the director pages, Kathleen Oberg, who's one of the directors, goes by the nickname Leanie.
Yeah, it's in the free float database. She's called Leanie.
It's Leanie, which has to be the lamest shortened version of Kathleen.
Right? I didn't even know it was a version.
Kath. But she went with Leanie, the middle one. Anyway, all right, moving on to game time. Now it's game time. That was the end of my 30 minutes. All right. That was what I got in 30 minutes.
I like games. Let's go.
Now it's game time. You mentioned this already. The news roundup right at the top. This is going to be top of mind for every single investor. Adobe CFO is using AI to answer 300,000 emails. Everyone's talking about AI, and AI is now causing CEOs to resign in fear, including Adobe CEO Shantanu Narayan, who announced he's leaving without actually leaving. He's going to not only stick around on the board, but he's going to have to find a successor, because apparently the story of this vote is there was no successor. A man who's been there for 18 years with who's lead independent director and the nominating committee chair, Frank Calderoni. His background is in talent management. This is all he does.
Can I tell you?
And they did not have a successor?
Can I tell you? A simple Control F, a search in their proxy statement for the word succession, right? Only It only appeared 3 times. I mean, this has got to be a record for a company that does not planning. And listen to this. This is essentially the nomination committee. If requested by the board, that one of their roles is, and this is their last job out of a list of 10, if requested by the board, assisting the board in reviewing and assessing performance, management development, and succession planning, including for the CEO. So this company they don't even have it baked into their proxy statement. They don't do proxy. They don't do succession planning.
I mean, honestly, the nominating committee, other than choosing their friends to put on the board from old school internet companies and sort of like non-related, other industries, with no core knowledge of Adobe's what Adobe does, you didn't think that a 61-year-old with an 18-year tenure in the face of AI might be like, it's time for me to step down, given that I make $40 to $50 million a year. I don't need the money. What am I doing this for?
Yeah.
You didn't think at some point this would be coming? He's been there for almost 20 years. Well, you had no plan? The other nom committee member that doesn't make any sense is Rosenzweig himself, the online textbook guy who's been there for 17 years. Calderoni does talent management. Rosenzweig's been there for 17 years, 1 year less than Shantanu Narayan, and he didn't think this was coming. There was no prior knowledge.
And you know who was cited in a filing in an 8K for who's going to help the CEO to look for the next CEO? It's that very man, Calderoni.
It's that guy, of course, because he's been there forever. So we've put in the hands the succession of this company to the 2 people who failed to do succession, who have been there the longest, and who are the least qualified to know anything that Adobe does or needs.
Not to mention, for going into the future after the 2026 AGM, they have that board agenda on lockdown. The former CEO is going to be the chair, and Calderoni is still going to be lead director. They still going to control the actions of the board, every action.
There's no point in even him stepping down.
That's probably true.
This is one of the
from
easiest,
a governance perspective. You're right. Yeah.
If you are an investor, this is one of the easiest firings, and it's not Shantanu Narayan. It's Calderoni. It's one of the easiest.
That's one of the people. Also, the textbook guy. The textbook dude.
He's the second one. He's the second target. But Calderoni is a layup vote no. The one guy whose job it was as lead independent director and nom chair to know that succession is a thing is the guy who wasn't prepared for succession at all. And frankly, you could think about purging this board of all that old school internet background, Red Hat, Yahoo, like, come on, CNET, what are we doing? And the thing that occurred to me as a game time decision is this board needs a ringer. Have you ever seen, here's a comp for you. Have you ever seen an oil company that didn't have oil executives on it or oil supply chain providers on it? Why is a design software company with no creative people on it anywhere? No designers.
To your point in your 30-minute exercise is that they kind of years ago, they surrounded themselves with people in their network and they just kind of stopped.
They stopped.
Yeah, it's hard to get into that network.
Which is sort of like PDFs. Like Adobe Acrobat basically stopped 20 years ago, right? PDFs are not like, what's new?
That was going to be my joke was that, these these Calderonis, these textbook guys, they're probably like, hey, we got PDF on lockdown. No one's ever going to challenge our company. Like we don't have to innovate. Like we got this.
Every board member is basically a PDF. They're basically their own PDF. They locked in time.
And they're impossible to deal with. You can't extract anything from it. They're dinosaurs of the document world.
In fact, I went through a process to find trades to add to this board because, like, there are designers out there. Like, I won't go through all of them, but like, there are people with design experience and modern tech experience that you could add to this board easily. They're already on other boards. Like, Baju Bhatt he has a design background. He was the CEO of Robinhood. He's the founder of a company called Etherflex, which is space solar. That guy's that guy's probably, knows more about Adobe products than anyone on the Adobe board.
He's probably true.
But let's move on to pay, because we mentioned pay. Narayan got $51.2 million in 25.
Wow.
52.4 million in 24.
Wow.
But he's one of the only CEOs I've seen where his realized pay was actually 10 million less than the summary compensation was. He actually brought home less than it says because their TSR sucked. And here is the crazy thing. He's still in the 84th percentile for pay of U.S. large cap companies.
Well, yeah.
He made less than realized pay, and it's still 84th percentile.
One thing I noticed is that this is another one of these classic companies. They all do, but they cheat. They kind of cheat at pay to make sure that you keep getting the same amount. So one thing I noticed is that they had a net new sales target in fiscal year 2024, and if you got 120% and above the target, you'd get 200% of your shares, right? And then this year, they lowered that 120% to 112.3% and above, and you get the 200. You get 200% of your shares. Like this, like what?
Do you want to know how else they cheated? This was great. This is a fun note that I found. When a company sucks at TSR, the market cap of that company goes down. When the market cap of that company goes down, then your peer group suddenly goes from large cap companies to you can add peers that don't fit your actual market cap. So here's what they said, quote, in August 2025, to strategically balance larger key talent competitors, the committee approved adding 3 smaller companies to the fiscal year 2026 peer group that included Expedia, Snowflake, and Uber Technologies to position Adobe closer to the median of its peer group on the basis of revenue and market cap. Effectively, what they're saying is we added some companies that are smaller and might suck a little more so that we're a little bit more median. It's much easier to hit your revenue threshold when you include smaller companies that just don't make as much revenue as you do.
That's fabulous.
It's brilliant. And then last but not least, shareholder proposals.
Yeah, we actually have 4 of them, right?
We have a bunch here. Yeah, and apparently the SEC's commitment to transparency on no action stopped in mid-March. There's been no updates on their website since mid-March.
Why bother?
But in December, they did Adobe excluded one proposal from Jing Zhao, the classicist, who asked for limiting CEO pay based on Aristotle principles.
Why not? It's all made up.
Excluded that. What they're letting go to vote was a Chivedin 2.99 times golden parachute limit.
Hey, this one got 47% support last year. It already passed. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's back because it didn't actually pass.
Well, they
didn't actually take it on board. NICER, as you mentioned, they want to disclose race and ethnicity and gender.
Adobe stopped disclosing that?
They stopped disclosing that when they could, as soon as they could. But NICER wants to put it in the skills table, which I thought was dumb. Like, it's not a skill.
Do you think they stopped disclosing it because they tried to copy it and paste it out of a PDF document and they couldn't get it into the proxy statement?
Didn't work. It was all offset. They couldn't do the matrix. And then Ridgeline Research, Americans Conservative Values ETF. They wanted to promote religious liberties. In fact, I love them. This one was great because they offered no evidence that Adobe doesn't promote religious liberties. In fact, this one was Adobe doesn't police content at all. So this one was so dumb, it's not even relevant to Adobe. They copy pasted it from somewhere else, said this is companies in an industry that we're copy pasting it to everyone. And it actually makes no sense at all.
Can we talk? I want to talk about that one just very quickly.
Yeah, I don't know how it got on.
This is a new one in the hate field, the anti-woke, anti-ESG field. So they actually have a boycott. They have a boycott list of 57 companies. And here's the thing. They don't tell you why. There's no criteria. There's no methodology. They say our process is qualitative. End of story. They don't even know what they're doing. It's all emotions. It's all feelings. It's all. I don't know how this gets through. I mean,
they demanded. They said. In fact, in the write-up, they said other companies and digital service providers often are promoting or are removing what they consider hateful, and discriminating against religious liberties, had nothing to do with Adobe. Adobe just happened to be lumped in digital service providers and they decided it. Literally, you can go through all their files. It doesn't say anything about like what they're talking about. So that one's a good one.
Excluded.
I don't even think they used PDFs. Like, I don't even think they know what an Adobe product is.
Dopes.
And then As You Sow had a GHG disclosure in retirement plans,
right?
Which is another template.
I've seen this one a lot this year.
I don't get this. I actually did a deeper dive than I should have on this, because employees are auto-enrolled into retirement plans. Those retirement plans, the contribution plans, are Vanguard-run plans. They're target date funds. And Vanguard does not offer, they have an ESG version. Adobe doesn't use it, but there's no ESG data that's supposedly going into like the 2050 fund. So the assets will be literally underwater. But whatever. And I even looked into who runs the target date funds. It's like a bunch of people who are central cast from, I'm not an investment banker, but I've been doing investing for 30 years, all of whom have like pretty much stayed at Vanguard the whole time. It's not that As You Sow is wrong, but isn't this like employees' battle? Like, they go ask their employer for the option to have an ESG version. I don't understand how this is relevant. It's
all right. Let's get to your picks then.
All right, let's get to my picks. My final vote.
The show. Yeah.
No on Calderoni. That's easy.
Yeah, that's easy.
No on Rosenzweig. That's easy.
That's easy. And let me add. I will accept. You can keep the former CEO around, even though I don't think he should. But he shouldn't be chair. I don't know how you vote on that, but
you wait until next year, and then on Narayan.
Absolutely should not be a chair. Absolutely not.
No on pay. You can't pay a guy the 84th percentile of realized pay for the 28th percentile of TSR. You can't do it. You can't do it. That's what they actually disclosed. Yes on Chevedden. Anything Chevedden puts out, just say yes. That guy knows what he's doing. Just follow him around and say yes.
Yeah.
And then I say no on all other shareholder proposals.
Yeah. I support everything Controller, City of New York City Employment, Employees Retirement System, all of them. Whatever they do, I say yes.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'm a no on this one. That's what I got. That was game time.
That's it. That's the proxy countdown for the week of April 6, 2026. That's a lot. That was a lot.
That's a lot.
Join us next week when we jump back into the alternative democracy pool. Forever on the lookout for shareholder shenanigans, dopey directors, scandalous CEO pay ratios, and wayward band-aids.